GAYSIAN.
Literally GAYSIAN.
Literally GAYSIAN. Welcome back. You're listening to Literally GAYSIANs, where two gay Asian guys, GAYSIANs,
GAYSIANs.
get real about their feelings and literally GAYSIAN shit. I'm Chris.
And me llamo Bao. And today we're going to wear our big boy sweats and going to the all-you-can-eat Korean barbecue for beef.
And it's not the grilled kind, because this beef be angry. It's annoyed, and she has had it.
She's had it.
I don't know why I just gendered the beef. Please don't cancel me.
So this episode is about the beef of the feelings kind, our rage, our grudges, and it's inspired by the recent Netflix series Beef that came out just a few weeks ago, starring Ali Wong and Stephen Nguyen. They played two people caught in a road rage accident who let their beef with each other spiral their lives out of fucking control.
It's such a good show. I just started it and I'm a few episodes in, and it's getting us all thinking about the rage we feel under the surface as Asian American millennials. And, how we're taught to keep things all bottled up. They say, don't make waves. And it's really interesting seeing stories about people that look like me and are my age, but, hotter and younger than me.
And I just finished the season or the series a couple of weeks ago, and the ending is literally just a chef's kiss. And it really got me thinking about just my own millennial rage, my own Asian rage. And today we're going to let that rage out. But before we get to that, a quick catch up, because we just actually saw each other in person last week. And it's funny, every time we're together, we never record a podcast episode. But we were in Palm Springs and Indio for Coachella. It was so much fun. How was it for you?
So last year was both our first time. So we're on the same track right now. And each time I'm always really inspired and reminded to lean into and feed into my creativity or what's left of it that hasn't been devoured by capitalism.
Mhm.
I go with the intention of minimally just seeing a handful of artists that I really want to, and then more to follow folks like you and our ears, because sometimes we'll run into somebody so cool and new. I like my music, but I'm not a super massive music geek. And so almost everyone's new to me. And we ran into Ashniko,
She was
and
so
we were
good.
both walking by and had to stop, even though we were on our way to go see somebody, and she was singing songs like "Working Bitch" or telling
I'm
us.
a working bitch. So catchy, such a bop.
And then she started telling a story about being in the forest naked, lying down on a log as vines eat her decaying body and worms go into her ear. I was like, oh yeah, I'm digging this.
And then it transitions into her hit single, Worms in My Brain. It's literally called.
Yeah.
When we were going through her discography the day after, we're like, oh, there is a song. Maybe that's what she performed after. And
Yeah, right
all night,
before Clitoris the Musical.
an actual track, everybody, that she
Yes.
has. It's called Clitoris the Musical, and it's hilarious. And I just had her lyrics stuck in my head all day.
Mhm.
Like, I gave your girlfriend cunnilingus on my couch. For some reason, that has been stuck in my head for the last 2 weeks. And this is the brilliance of that. Really, just as gay men, really loving just cheesy, corny pop music. And she is just an embodiment of that.
She's camp. She is true camp.
Full on camp. And I am always there for the music. So the artists that I love, they're always working so hard. They spend so many months or even the whole year figuring out what they're gonna do on this set that's gonna define them, and really find some surprises to entertain you. And they work so hard to entertain us, right? And like you, I loved wandering around and exploring artists like Ashniko. She was a gem to find. The highlights for me were Bjork, Yeji, that Kaytranada set that we wandered into. In the middle of it, I couldn't find our friends, but we had such a good time anyway, just because right when we were walking to the field, I'm I wonder if this is going to be good. And that's when he dropped the Cuff It Beyonce remix, and it was so good.
It was amazing.
But my favorite memory was literally the bonding that we had with just the huge group of friends that we brought because we were kind of a smaller group last year, sorry. And then we had this huge group, so many different houses, so many different Airbnbs. But my favorite memory from that was when we were playing that feelings game. It's like 3 a.m. on that Sunday, where I guess Monday morning was the last night of Coachella. We are kind of coming down from our peak of the Molly, just open and comfortable with each other. And then we decided to like play this card game about feelings that our friend brought. So it's kind of like we're not really strangers. You know that card game in that red
Uh-huh.
box that's like advertising on Instagram all the time.
Yeah.
And so in each round, we each picked a card and answered a really personal and vulnerable question about ourselves. And I just, it was just so nice to have that be kind of like the end of the end of the weekend.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was a little nervous at first, and maybe because I had a light speech impediment from all these substances we had, but I got really into it. And I had a card that had me share something that I learned at Coachella about myself, which was
Mhm.
to lean into my old weird self. And because I find myself self editing so much lately, and it's my charm or maybe my mask, who knows, but it's who I
Mhm.
am, and I want to be more of myself to myself and others.
Yeah, and being on the substances, being on that press pill energy, and getting that card. You say things like I don't think that would have come up on like a regular conversation with us. It may have come up on this podcast, if you thought we thought about it was intentional, but just in like the everyday like hanging out at Coachella it
Mhm.
wouldn't come out, and it was so nice to hear that from you. It's so nice to hear that from other people in the room who have been through so much, and it made me realize like in the more than a decade that we've all been friends, we've just been through so much. And we've supported each other through so much grief during the pandemic when our parents died, when there were hard breakups, like divorces and layoffs. There were a lot of things that went on in our group. I feel like some other group would have been like gossiping about us because there was so much going on. But to be in this moment, know and love each other, we were just kind of held each other through a lot of these things. And I realized this because there were a couple of people who were new to our group playing the game. Like they started dating one of our friends and they've only known
Mhm.
us for a year. And once in a while, someone would say something pretty vulnerable. And then like they had to just like, hey, what happened there? Like, what happened with that person's ex? And why
Oh,
does
that
he
was
feel
my
this way?
favorite because we had to retell the story. It's
Did
so
we all have to reach?
good.
I know. Or like, this is the time where this happened at that club. This is what they went through. It's not good, but we love them, So it just made me realize how much we've been through and how much I kind of love everyone. And to be able to go to something like Coachella with a group like that.
And it's not just about like the partying and the music, it's about our friendships together. And I remember you had coined it maybe like a decade ago. It's our Molly Talks.
Yeah, it's the Molly talk. Um, and being at the festival ignited so much of the creativity in all of us, right? So I think the closing question was like, what are you inspired by this weekend that you'll take to the next weekend? Oh, wait, this sounds so much like camp. Everyone's gonna listen to this. And they went to some weird camp or a really intense work offsite. But again, it was just an amazing
Or
weekend.
rehab.
Yes, or they should. In any case, in summary, I guess I was tripping hard, but tripping really good
Hmm.
to feel all these great feelings. And I still feel that way even after that absolutely baffling Frank Ocean set. That couldn't bring me down, but we promise to get into it later.
Yes, you will, because our topic this week is beef. And there's
Beef.
beef to be had with Frank Ocean.
Hmm.
Yeah, let's get into it. Inspired by the show, let's talk about our beefs and each do a take on something we have in a few different categories, even with each other.
With each other. So that one I'm a little nervous about feeling raw and vulnerable. But I'm trying to stay open. Like we were playing that feelings card game, going to the Coachella camp where we shared our feelings and what we're
Yeah,
going to
but I'm
take
sober
into.
now.
Yep, we're really sober now, slightly still coming down probably, and trying not to let any of this criticism trigger my fight or flight response. Which is funny because if this is about anger and beef, this is just about our fight response to different things. So underlying all this anger is some sort of fear, insecurity, but or
Mhm.
some sort of trigger. But let's just say noted and move on, and let's have the space to just have our beef. And let's start with the small stuff, the easy stuff.
All right. So keeping it recent, what's a beef that you have with anything or anyone at Coachella? Like, do I even need to ask this question?
Frank
Frank
Ocean.
Ocean.
Frank, girl, I was expecting you to perform your album Blonde. All we got was bland. Channel Orange, more like Channel Boring.
Oh, God.
Frank Ocean was literally one of the top 5 artists of all time for me. So I was really looking forward to it. Like I had set, I was afraid there was going to be too much expectation on him. So I set my lowest
Mhm.
expectation to he's not going to release any new music or a new album. He'll just sing his old stuff. I'm going to be okay with that. So I was completely astounded realizing that he even delivered lower than that bar.
Ah,
Like shit happens, delays happen. So I'm not mad about the delay. But at one point, he just played a CD of his songs and started vibing to his own songs on stage. Not singing, not even lip syncing, just vibing, just dancing to his own songs, like 3 songs straight. He wasn't even singing. Like, girl, you broke your ankle, but did you break your voice? No, you didn't.
he's not even a drag queen.
Not even a drag king. I don't know what he was, like a hype man for his own music. And I think I'll see a lot of this discourse about like, dude, he's a man who's grieving. Be kind to him. Of course, so are many of us in the last few years who have grieved. What's different for us is that we spent hundreds of dollars to go see him perform, and he couldn't even perform. And if you're not up for it, if you're going through that, just drop out, just cancel.
It's like I should not save up my serotonin leading up to Coachella just to have my roll wasted staring at the floor waiting for Frank Ocean.
That made us so angry. And I know that we sound pretty like entitled as fans right now. So when I went to the Kalela concert last month, who I loved, she talked about her experience just like making that new album she came out with and how long it took her. And that a lot of artists these days have to deal with audience entitlement. So that's like fans feeling they're entitled to new music or content all the time and demanding it from their artists. She experienced it a little, but she said her fans were accepting of like whatever she's doing. I know it's gonna make a great album. You can see people doing that with Rihanna, right? Always demanding
Mhm.
when that new album is out, even when the artist isn't ready.
Even when the artist literally said she's not going to come out with new music, although she
Yes,
did.
oh, she did, and though she might still. So I thought about that. Like, are we being like entitled fans? And I don't think I was like I would have been happy if he just came out and performed his songs, if he just sang his own songs, but he didn't even do that. Like if he would have canceled, yes, we would have been disappointed as fans, but it wouldn't be disrespectful to his
Yeah.
fans, which is what that set felt like. It felt like
Mhm.
disrespectful.
It was so painful because it was also the third day, and I feel like he was the talk of the town, and it just kind of put a damper on everyone's end of the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had just seen that amazing Bjork set, fully tripping on acid, um, fully feeling the love for everyone, this planet, and myself. And then reminding that there are ups and downs in life, and life is a roller coaster with that Frank set. But I made peace with it. And I think this is one of the situations you separate the art from the artist. It's not like he did something that problematic. He just disappointed his fans. I still love the music. I can still listen to White Ferrari without feeling any anger.
My little beef is not necessarily with Coachella itself, but my own personal lack of musicality and inability to hear lyrics. I mean, that's why I'm such a bad drag queen. I always turn my head a lot so people don't know that I don't know the words. And when we're at any top 40 artist, you know how when they turn the sound off and the crowd erupts singing the lyrics? I'm always surprised and feeling so left out. I don't know when it's going to happen. I think next time I'm going to stand near the accessibility screen that shows all the lyrics going on, so I won't miss it next time.
So you're not at Coachella. You're at Coachella karaoke.
But I will say, shout out to Coachella for having the lyrics up for people.
I also feel like most people fake it. I think sometimes when I'm really feeling myself, I know like the first few words of the verse, and then I just pretend like I know, trail off and pretend the rest. Like no one can really hear me get it wrong. So that's like kind of the fun part about it. But I love your relationship to lyrics. My favorite example of that was when we did that drag show together. We were gonna open with like a lip sync to the theme to the Golden Girls, like "Thank you for being a friend," or you were gonna open to that,
Mhm.
and our friend for some reason accidentally played the instrumental version. So
Which, by the way, was not even part of the plan to ever have an instrumental version. I don't know why he had it.
why was it in the folder? But anyways, he played it, and without the actual lyrics playing, you just continue to mouth to like an instrumental version of that song.
I was flabbergasted. And you know what he did? In an attempt to fix it, he played the instrumental over again, and I just lip synced to it again.
And everyone was like, "This is very avant-garde drag, I guess. This is her drag."
It's the first time I learned my lyrics and they didn't play the music.
And there were no lyrics to be lip synced to.
Okay, new topic. Uh, what's a beef you have with the community? Like, it could be any community you belong to. Are you Gaysian, gays, the Asians, cis male, whatever? What do you got a beef with?
So my beef is with you Gaysians out there, and the Gaysian guys, and not the whole community, just certain millennials and Gen Xers in those communities. And it's around gender inclusivity. Why is it so fucking hard for some of you fucking Gaysians to update ever so slightly how you reflect and engage with the world that is more inclusive of trans and non-binary people? And I mean this for the
Mhm.
millennials and the Gen Xers, because you Gen Z Gaysians, you got it together. The millennials and Gen Xers, there's some work to do. And we're going to start with the language. So for the record, girl, we don't say the T word anymore when we talk about trans people. And you'd be surprised how many people I've heard still do it, particularly in LA. I don't think you can use the word, and I use this as the word dyke freely. It depends on the situation and who you're with, but just think of it like this: like once in a while, Krista and I like to use the word faggot for fun,
Mhm.
just to
But
be
it's between us.
yes, it's between us. If someone who is not us uses it, you kind of be like, hell no, but like depending on the situation, right? So when you're using a term like dyke or the T word or something, just first of all, just maybe don't use it. And like think of the situation like that. Like, would you appreciate someone calling you a faggot if they weren't a faggot?
Yeah. Figure out your code switching. You can do it.
On the same topic of language, these pronouns, girl, it's not that hard. If I have to hear, oh, Sam Smith, he uses they, them pronouns one more time, I'm literally going to explode. And it's not easy, but it is kind of easy. Just practice. It takes time in the beginning, but you kind of get used to
Yeah.
it.
And when you hear it in your head, you know you did it wrong. Just correct yourself in the moment.
It's fine. Just correct yourself in the moment. Like, my bad, I meant X. And when someone corrects you, you can also just be, oh, yeah, my bad. Because people have done that to me. I'm like, oh, thanks. Yeah, I meant they, them. I didn't realize that. And I think this is my beef because I've just spent so much time being politely correcting people, which is still awkward. It's not just Sam Smith, it can be personal. Like, I have this friend, trans woman in LA that I met in LA like a few years ago. And she used to live in New York with our mutual friend, and our mutual friend introduced us. So our mutual friend knew her before she transitioned. But well, whenever we're hanging, we drink a lot. He just keeps misgendering her. And I know it's hard, but she's nice about correcting it. But imagine this person having to correct people her entire day, even in
Mhm.
the company that she should feel safe with. And that is just my last point on this, on being like more gender inclusive. It's not just about like the words you use, but ask yourself, like, is anyone in your life trans? It's someone that you talk to often, a true friend, or even like a coworker. Because maybe it's time to get to know trans people on this level. And when you see and feel them on this human level, on the level of love and friendship, or even companionship at work, you'll also see how maddening it is that they're treated a certain way throughout life, that they face these things throughout their entire day. And the least you can do is just not add to it. And the least you can do, especially as someone like also in the queer community, is to not add to it. So I know I sound like an angry like social justice warrior, but I've just been again just like really nice and polite about this shit, and I just think I'm about to explode. So do better, millennial Gaysians. You could do fucking better.
It's interesting because people don't use the Z term anymore, which I thought was really good. It was a new word rather than using what people now keep saying. Well, it's a plural word. Don't can't use that. Which, oh
Mhm.
God, they're stupid. But I liked Z. Z,
Yeah.
it works.
Do people still use it?
No, I don't know nobody uses it anymore that I've known recently. So I don't know if it's like offensive or just passe.
Yeah. And then when you're in doubt, just be like Instagram or Facebook. Use they them.
Okay, on that same topic, a little lighter. I am so over gender reveal parties. Like,
Oh God, yeah.
not even just the whole idea that they have started fires in California, fires everywhere, actually, killed people, destroyed the environment with the blue dye in a river, killing all of the wildlife. It just doesn't make sense. It I at first I thought, oh, it's this weird old thing that old people used to do. It's made up by millennials. That's what drives me
Yeah.
crazy. It
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
why? Just like you said, do better, millennials. Do better.
Yeah, and it's funny because I heard about another podcast like ranting on this topic who are Gen Xers, and I thought they did it too, but no, they don't. It's the millennials who created it, and this reminds me of like a really good friend of mine. For her first baby, invited me to a gender reveal party, and it was during the pandemic on Zoom. And I was that's just a close friend of mine, and she was like probably 6 7 months pregnant, and I had just talked to my other girlfriend. I'm like, I'm so like conflicted about this. I'm not gonna I have if I don't go, I feel like I'm not being a good friend. I also feel like I want to say something, but does that matter now at where she is in her pregnancy? So, I mean, I'm going to tell the truth now. I just thought of a lie and got out of it, and I've never talked to her about it. But I just thought she was like, she has, I mean, it's okay to say it. She has a lot of gay friends, but she has a lot of gay friends. She's a pretty progressive person on the internet. I just don't know why this is allowed to happen. I've had some girlfriends be like, in the Asian culture, some grandparents want to do it, and sometimes they will do it for the grandparents. But then it's just
Mhm.
like an egg or something, and they're not burning down things, and they don't agree with it. But it's like, I'm just doing it for the grandparents. But it is just ridiculous how widespread these still are.
Maybe if you had shown up, she would have found that they opened the box to reveal a cup of water because gender is fluid.
You dumb bitch.
And then still on this topic, I didn't realize how like mad I would get. Gendered restrooms. Like, fine, there's the
Hmm.
big shared restrooms. Not even really fine, but private single person restrooms that are male and female. What is the point? It just, it's like anyone should be able to go in there. More places should have private restrooms. Why do we need to have the little restroom openings under the door? I don't want people seeing inside in the first place. Americans are weird about bathrooms. It's just this bizarre. Like, I think it's just that men don't want to see the tiny little trash cans next to the toilet in women's bathrooms, so they don't have to be reminded that half the world has periods. It just, it's so maddening.
Oh, you know what the conservatives are gonna say? Because they don't want creepy men in the restroom.
Well, they're the creepy men.
Yeah.
They're the creepy men that they're afraid of.
Are you saying this because it's been a while since you've been to the cafe in the Castro and you were there this weekend and they have amazing private single person stalls?
Yes, I love it. And that's where you can do all your other things.
Yes, yes. Many different activities that can be done in a private single person restroom without holding up the line for anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, our next topic that we have beef with, and it's you.
Oh lordy, are we back to the feelings game?
Yes. What beef do you have with yourself?
um, I think lately, especially while being laid off, I've had too much time to like sit with my own feelings or um,
Oh, mhm,
and so I think one of the things is big ideas, but little action. I think I have at least a moderate sense of creativity and excitement, and both in work and in my personal creativity. I think I come up with big ideas and
mhm,
they're exciting, but I can't always seem to start or finish them. It's I get scared. I think if I
mhm.
weren't so afraid, I might have approached you many more years ago to start this podcast. But better late than never. Just I just can't always get to that first step. And I'm working on that and thinking about it more. But that's my beef with myself.
I feel you on that. I think a lot of people feel this way. Remember the day before we were gonna launch this podcast trailer? We had done all this work, had all these episodes actually recorded already. I'm like, "Never mind."
You were just like, um, I got a text like in the middle of the night, like, let's just not do this.
Should we
Like,
just not do this? And it's just because putting stuff out there and like expressing your creativity can be hard, or you don't have to put stuff out there. You can do stuff for yourself.
mhm,
But I also think you're super creative when there's an accountability partner. So I think
mhm.
we work well together on this. But I know we saw an old video at Coachella, like someone dug up that you did a roast for our friend Maverick's 30th birthday party, and it was so amazing. You did that.
Yeah,
But maybe there was a deadline, right? Like, there's a birthday party, and I'm going to speak at it.
it's the stress that gets me charged up. I'm told that's an ADHD symptom. I can only
Yeah,
work at deadlines.
yeah. I heard this podcast about the Adderall shortage, and someone talked about that. Like, it like something switched after they got access to Adderall or ADHD medication, because before they had this long list, and because it was so daunting, but something they wanted was so daunting, they wouldn't do it. But once the therapist put them on, or psychiatrist put them on Adderall, they were finally like something clicked, and they were finally able to do things.
It's wild. You take some and like, is this how neurotypical people think? They can just say, "I'm gonna do that," and do it. It's weird. It's so weird.
I think we still have the same fears, or maybe I have ADHD too. I can't believe I just told you that, by the way. Like, was I just ADHD explaining things, something to you?
I'm learning. I'm still learning.
Well, I'm going to be accountable for this creative idea that you have, which is for some of the episodes, you're going to do um, new key art for it. So it's not just our Literary Gaysians
Mhm.
logo. So you're going to work on it, and it's going to be great. I think you have a great idea. And if listeners are looking on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and just see the
Wow.
Literally Gaysians logo, I have failed at making Chris accountable for his big idea.
God, blasting me to the full public.
Full accountability,
All
like
right, all
major
right.
intense accountability. Okay, so myself, my beef with myself, I'm just always in this constant cycle of shame that's hard to like um pull myself out of. And of course I'm working on it in therapy. And sometimes it just feels like I'm doing very well, and other days it's just like bad. And it's come to the point like some all the things I've learned in therapy, I also process with shame. So let me give you an example. Like, take body dysmorphia, for example. When I'm in one of those like eras or body dysmorphic moods, like say like I had an injury, I couldn't work out, or Botox is running out or something like that. And for me, it was like, say I saw a skinny photo of myself from 2018, or when I was skinnier, um, and only skinny because I probably had disordered eating at the time. And so, anyways, I see this picture of myself. I feel like super ashamed of my body. And then I realize, like, wait. You're feeling this shame. You're feeling terrible because this is body dysmorphia speaking. So don't listen to her. Don't listen to the body dysmorphia. And that's a good perspective, right?
Mhm.
And then I immediately switch to, why do you have body dysmorphia? You're such a broken person. Like, then I start having shame for having
It just
body
layers
dysmorphia.
on top of each other.
So the awareness is helpful, yes, but then I have a shame with the awareness. And I'm like, is there's really no break from this? And then I just find that funny. And I just realize now that I'm in a space now where I can kind of live with the stuff I have, know that I'm working on it, and be lighter about it. Cause like not
Mhm.
freak out, like, oh my God, I'm feeling body dysmorphia, and just be like, all right, let's let it pass. It's not going to be here forever. And just like be kinder to myself. So yeah, I know it was sort of like against the idea of being kind to yourself when we asked this question, what problem do you have with yourself? But I think a lot of people feel this way. So
Yeah, all of us have that, and the body dysmorphia, especially in the queer community, and I think for like us, with our immigrant Asian parents,
mhm.
even good things are always done with shame and guilt. This is I learned it from you, mom.
And then when I went to Asia, like to visit my mom, she would just say things like, oh yeah, he was skinnier back then. He's fat now. Right. And I'm like, of course, but that time I was skinny, I literally was like, you know how there's intermittent fasting?
Mhm.
And that's kind of healthy. Some people would argue it's disordered eating. You just eat for 8 hours a day or whatever. And then someone turned me onto the idea like, oh, I'm trying intermittent fasting, but instead of fasting for 16 hours, I just fast a whole 24 hours for 2 days a week. And nothing hit me as wrong about that. And I tried it and I was so skinny. And okay, and I feel bad about saying this now because some people who have body dysmorphia might try it. But now when I look back, I'm like, that wasn't intermittent fasting. That was literally disordered eating.
Uh-huh.
And
Two
I don't want
days.
2 days a week, just like, oh, I have busy with work and I don't have time to work out. So like, I'm going to do the 24-hour intermittent fasting.
I remember that time in your life because I kept thinking, wow, she's looking good. I think I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, it's
We
so,
both have
it's
we
so
got too many
toxic.
problems.
And I'm now afraid of like talking about this and people getting the idea to do it. So don't do it. It actually gives you're so little energy. And I'm not going to get into it. Just don't do it. But it took this many years for me to look back and be like, yo, that was disordered eating.
Listeners, we are not doctors. Please speak with your doctor about good eating habits.
Yes. And the person who gave me my idea was not a licensed professional, but unfortunately a very hot looking person. So so toxic. So don't try that ever at home. All right. Next topic. This is the vulnerable. They're getting ready to be open and receiving whatever you're gonna say. What is your beef about me?
um, Maybe it's a side of beef, like a beef appetizer. It's I when you feel some sort of way about something in like a say a group situation, uh, I can see you trying to be very like nice or civil about something, and you're like yeah and I can tell that you're being so fake. And I'm just wondering, is he helping the situation or making it worse? It's like I could tell you are seething, and you're like, yes, that's great. And I get it makes me so uncomfortable. And I still remember this time when you were having some drama with your ex-boyfriend, and our friend Joshua was saying, "Oh yeah, he deserves an Oscar for that act on pretending to be okay with everything." I was like, "Yeah," but I thought it was so obvious he was not okay.
I was obviously not okay in that
And
situation.
but going back to the ADHD, some people I've been reading that people with ADHD or certain neurodivergent types are highly sensitive to other people's feelings in those moments. And so maybe it was just me that could see it. But my favorite part about it, my non beef, is that when somebody says something cringy in the room, I know to look directly at you for the eyes. Oh God, I love like knowing, oh God, I'm not the only one that thinks this is terrible. So yeah, that's
Mhm.
my little mini beef with you.
Yeah, no, and I totally feel that. I just had an instance a couple of weeks ago where I was at a club with some guy and I didn't like what was going on. Right? I didn't like what was going on, but I still tried to perform like I was. Like he was, we were interested. Okay, I was just not going to get into it, but I realized I was trying to perform being cool with everything. And because I was there with him, none of my friends were there. I didn't have a safety net. I didn't want to just leave. I didn't want to just like ruin everyone's his friends' time by saying like, "Oh, this is like not cool." Um, and so I just pretended like everything was fine and thought of ways to act, to behaviors to perform to look that way. And then when I woke up the next morning, I'm like, "Oh fuck it, I keep doing that. I'm not going to do it anymore." And then I started to kind of work through this in therapy.
Mhm.
So it's like a deep thing in therapy that I'm working through. So I totally get what you mean. I also have this thing where I'm like, a lot of people have said I'm intimidating,
Uh-huh.
and
I
to
was
go in
about
a
to
group,
say that. Uh-huh.
right? And so to go in a group, I kind of just be like, kind of like don't want to be that, um,
But that's who
or
you are.
it's who I am. But I also feel for the new person coming into this group, right? It's very hugely intimidating to be in a room full of like us, very loud, opinionated, confident people, and to say something like, "Oh, I love trans." Or greatest artist of all time, obviously Alesso, and all of us standing there and being like cringing. How would that person feel? It is better to be like, "Oh, interesting," or "I'm not that into trans," and then shoot a look at each other. But that person doesn't need to feel like we were also bitchy to them just because we didn't have the same music taste, right? Bad
Mhm, mhm.
example, but I think that's an example that happened before.
It's a recent example. Thinking about Coachella and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so what's your beef with me?
I think it's also just like a carpaccio, like a beef
Mm.
carpaccio or a beef tartare. It isn't like a full spread prime rib, house of prime rib. Um, but I think it's less about you, more about me, which is realizing I used to maybe have like little annoyances, like maybe you send too many memes, which I think you've gotten a lot of feedback about,
Plenty.
or
I've
like
slowed it down.
you forget things. But then once the ADHD kicked in, the not kicked in, but the ADHD diagnosis happened, and you started understanding yourself more, I started understanding how ableist I was around neurodiversity, right? And that I am a neurotypical person. And um, I then started appreciating so much of you, of how, like, for example, on this podcast, you're really able to be present because you're just kind of like present because of you. You have a lot of ideas. Um, and I had worked with neurodiverse people before, people with ADHD before, and they were like pretty good about telling like this is kind of what works for me, this is kind of what doesn't. And so I would say like some of the annoyances I had about you before is probably through a pretty like neurotypical lens. And so I kind of don't want to go there because like I think I've let go of that a lot. But so the only thing on the beef carpaccio is you need to go to a sleep study and check out your snoring. I have you? And you,
I
okay,
just got diagnosed with sleep apnea. Like literally just diagnosed with it.
I was gonna text you just because we were out with our friend and who we had suspected having sleep apnea for a while, and he was like, "Oh, I just got my sleep apnea machine." I'm like, "If you just got your sleep apnea machine, I just need to tell Chris this person just got their sleep apnea machine. How's it going for you? Amazing. Okay, so it's not even a beef. It's off the menu. But
Well,
what happened? How did this all happen?"
and I still got to follow through with getting a machine. Now that I got no insurance, we'll see what happens with
Oh,
that. So yeah, on our next getaway, just bring earplugs.
so I do. I have. So we had to sleep. So me and Chris had to sleep next to each other in a bed, like on after Coachella. I had my headphones in, noise canceling, playing deep sleep music, and I still heard you, but I still stepped through. I was pretty exhausted, but then I understood what some people have been saying, and I know this is something you've heard a lot. But I'm glad that you got diagnosed and you're working on it.
Yeah. I actually started bringing earplugs for other people when we go away.
Well, great. You're gonna have a CPAP soon. All right, that was like intense, kind of, but like not really.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think we
I
we
wasn't
trust each
sure
other.
where we were gonna go with that, but that was nice.
Yeah, I think at this point we're just been friends for so long that like we've either hashed it out in
Yeah.
person or accepted it and
Mhm.
love that about the other person.
It's our charms.
Okay, so let's jump to our last category because I wish we had all the time in the world, but we don't. Any topic. So this is any category. What do you have beef with? Anything.
Fucking hemorrhoids. Uh, Nobody talks about it. The beef is that nobody talks about hemorrhoids. And I think everyone around me knows now what a hemorrhoid is. I actually literally had to teach somebody what a hemorrhoid was, and they were already well into their like 30s, and they had their first one. I was like, "Oh, grasshopper, let me teach you the ways." Uh, it's the like probably one of the biggest reasons I'm more of a verse top lately. Because, after my first Hemi, it exploded in the bathroom at work and the
Uh huh.
toilet was all red. And I can't let that happen again. And
I'm
I
gonna.
guess,
That that was a very intense description. Just give me a moment.
yeah, all the listeners should be imagining this.
So
And,
this happened at work.
yes.
Oh my
At the
gosh.
Apple store, I was just, and you know how clean those bathrooms are? It was not clean after. So,
Um.
and it's like the American diet is so low in fiber. So my beef is, well, with beef, and Americans have this like meat and potatoes mentality. And I'm always curious if there is like lower hemorrhoid occurrences in more vegetable forward cuisines, like in Asia. Like I was just
Uh
in
huh.
Ho Chi Minh City, and every meal I had, half of it was fresh vegetables, and it
Mm-hmm.
was so good, and everything was so smooth. Like I actually had been
Mm-hmm.
considered working towards like a low to no beef diet. But no, we'll see if my ADHD allows me to stick to something longer than a month.
So wait. What is a hemorrhoid and how?
Uh,
I know what it is, but now I forget how it forms. I didn't realize like fiber had to deal with it.
for all you new listeners, a hemorrhoid is when the veiny areas in your butthole strain too much, and you can get an internal or external hemorrhoid. You don't want either of them, but an external one, it's it gets bigger and it is painful and it can feel like there's a lump inside. And if it gets even worse, it'll blow up.
Oh my god!
And
It's not what happened to you.
yeah, and it was after bottoming, I got it. I was like,
So
oh,
it can happen after bottoming.
it can after bottoming if you just go a little too hard on that. It could happen if you
Wow.
strain too much when you go to the bathroom.
Ooh.
They say that you should
I think
never
I
sit
kind of
on
do
a
that.
toilet longer than 5 minutes, and because that can lead your body to put more blood pressure on the anal blood vessel area. And so, yeah, don't strain. If you can't go, don't. As one doctor put it, when you're pooping, it should be like you're blowing bubbles out of your ass. Don't go harder than that.
I think I go pretty hard. I never want to like poop at the club. So I try to figure out when I eat before I go out and then like I have a nice, like for example, during Coachella, we wanted to wake up, have a meal and make sure that we got it out before we had to hop on the shuttle,
The
right?
only reason we kept going to Coachella late is because I had to have my moment before I would allow us to leave.
Because you don't want to go on the third day at night in those porta potties, even though there's the covered restrooms too. But because of that, sometimes I'm like forcing it out. I'm like sitting there forcing it out. And I'm
Mhm.
also a bottom. So I think this is very, very helpful information for me.
Yeah, yeah. Get your fiber in. The more you know. Okay, also, hot, nice people. It's they have
Fuck
so
them.
much going on for them. So all I can say is I hope they have anxiety issues.
I know when you meet hot, nice people, it's just like, it's just unfair. I couldn't be either of these. But sometimes, like, are they nice because they're hot? Right? Like, life has just been great, rosy for them. But I don't know. Yeah.
They're rare. So maybe they went through something earlier in life that
That's
led them to
true.
be nice. And so I'm thankful for them. I don't wish mental health problems on people, only some people.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. My beef. Um. So I've been on these dating apps a lot. So
Mhm.
what's up with all these gay guys who have weird photos? Okay, so my beef is with guys who have no smiling photos at all in the collection of their. Have you seen those guys?
All the
Where they're just
time.
mean mugging?
I think about that all the time. I think it's a toxic masculinity thing.
Yeah, a smile. I wanna feel safe with you, not like ghosted by you.
Okay, Cupid studies showed that men that didn't smile in their photos, they had higher click rates.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, not for me. It's a definitely a swipe left for me. Um, Also, this is not Grinder. So your photo on Tinder should have your face. Have you seen those profiles where it's like a boat or like
A
what?
nipple.
Like, do I inquire within for a face photo? Like, what the fuck are you doing? Where do you think you are? Do you think people are gonna? Who's gonna swipe right on that?
I wonder if it's working. If they have had their
Well,
profile
yeah,
up for that long
I know they just put like
to do
six
that.
six three on there or 6'5" on there, and then people still swipe right. 6'3" white, just,
They
just
get a
like
response. Nice stats. On that, when you get to their linked Instagram and their social media, and you scroll down, and they don't have updated photos, and it's graduation pictures. I'm like, I am too old for this. Or even worse, if those graduation photos were recent. I'm like, oh girl, why am
even
I?
worse if the graduation is undergrad,
They're still
and
wearing that
even
little thing.
and even worse, high school.
Well, that's like your 25-year-old.
I know that was my 25-year-old dating experience. Okay, last one, last beef I have. Fucking vaping. Why did they invent vaping with these delicious flavors? I had fully quit. I had smoked cigarettes for 10 years, full on quit 4 years ago. Have not been smoking for so many years. Then these bitches vaping started showing up in raspberry, aloe, grapefruit,
And your
delicious.
favorite, matcha.
Oh, the fucking matcha flume vape. Why did someone invent this? Why do I simultaneously don't want California to make it illegal, but simultaneously want them to make it illegal? Because I am back on vaping, and I think I picked it up for a little bit last year, quit again. And I picked it up like right after I came back from Asia, and I just kept telling myself, I'm gonna quit after Coachella, and I'm quitting right now. And today has been really rough. I think
Oh.
yesterday was fine, but today has been rough. I swore I had another vape hidden somewhere. Instead of preparing for this podcast, I literally spent 30 minutes walking around my apartment, going downstairs and searching my car, going through every bag that I had during Coachella to see if that vape was there before I finally took like a nicotine mint thing. And I'm like, fuck vaping. Why did someone invent this? I know it's gonna be an uncomfortable 2 weeks as I've as my friend made up. Quitting vaping is easy. I've done it 10 times.
I still remember outside of the club, you gave me Nicorette gum, and I thought, oh my God, is this going to be my gateway to smoking?
But you hated it. I think you were like, no.
Yeah, that is one thing that I'm so happy that I did not pick up from my mother. She did not stop smoking when she was pregnant with me. So, hence
Oh,
this, but at least I didn't get that part to actually like smoking.
yeah. I just think I had done so well, and I just got pulled back in. And fuck vaping is also like fuck my addictive personality. These cravings can get super intense, and I know how hard it is to quit, which is why I say I will, but like really don't procrastinate on doing it because I just have a really terrible time and quitting. But I just
Well, talking the accountability, by the next episode, I'm going to ask you if you quit.
okay,
The
sounds good.
listeners, remember this.
That'll be a beef or a be real. But yeah, I just think I am having a lot of beef with vaping right now because I can't work out like I used to. I can see it tearing down my skin a little bit. And I just felt overall just much more healthier when I didn't do it. So pray for me.
Okay, our time at the table at the all you can eat Korean barbecue is up. We have had enough beef to last a lifetime or until the next one when we come up with all this new shit that we're here to complain about.
And I think we should do this more often because we're not going to do a Be Real segment this episode because this episode was essentially a
Giant one.
all giant Be Real. But maybe beef can be a regular segment like Be Real or Beef.
It's like truth or dare.
Yeah. And with that, we're going to wrap. And you can follow us at literally Gaysians on Instagram and TikTok, and me at Bow Bow Bowser on Instagram. And how about you, Chris?
Meet me south of market.gif. That's MEAT on the IG.
We'll see you in our next episode where a special guest
Oh.
returns. The return of the special guest. This guest hasn't been on yet. Until then, bye bye.
Till next time, babies.
Beef.
Beef.
Beef, beef, beef.